Well, fantastic, guys. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Obviously, we're at the Pro Spotlight here, our webinar, which again, for us, is going to be an opportunity for us to pass along some really great wisdom from some of our incredible users. And so, my name is Casey Taylor. I'm a customer training specialist here at JobTread. And for those who don't know, this is our, as I said, our opportunity to introduce you to some of our breakout session presenters from our annual Connect conference, which we had back in January, which we will have again. Those dates are up right now live. If you go to our website, you can actually see the information about early bird registration. So hop on that. Make sure you don't miss it. It is a fantastic conference, and it's a great opportunity for you to do what we're doing here today, to learn from some other incredible users, as well as some of our marketplace partners, and even some people from our own team. We'll be doing some teaching there as well. So make sure that you check that out. But Dan actually was one of our presenters this last January. And we've asked for him to share some of his wisdom with you here today. So one of the most important things that I think JobTread has to offer to anyone in your position in the construction field is this community around the software. Obviously, we believe in the software. We continue to try to make it better, to try to meet the needs that you have as a broad, flexible software. But what I think is a huge, huge benefit to you is the community of business people and other construction people that make up this JobTread community, because they share. We encourage one another. We listen to you, and you guys offer incredible insights as to what you need the software to do, how you need it to flex. And so the ability to come together for something like this is a huge part of what makes JobTread special, and that's the community. So I just want to thank you guys for offering your wisdom. I want to thank Dan for offering his wisdom, and thank you for contributing to things like JobTread Pros, our Facebook group, the ability to throw out templates, to throw out different ideas. We have learned so much, but you guys have also had the opportunity to help one another learn so much. And so we, again, just want to thank you guys so much. This is part of what makes what we believe in JobTread to be the best construction management software and solution on the market. And so thank you guys so much for the part that you play. And so again, we want to thank Dan for going above and beyond, for presenting back at our 2025 Connect conference, but also for being here today for the Pro Spotlight. And Dan, so that you guys know, Dan Lee is the CEO at Kane Remodeling here in the great state of Texas, down in Austin. And they have been customers with us since 2024, since the beginning of their business. Dan and I were just chatting. I'll let him share a little bit more about you here in a second, but we're excited to have them as part of our family. And we're excited that he has agreed to continue to share his presentation from Connect Conference here with you today on a Pro Spotlight. Before we jump into it, a few ground rules just so that we're all on the same page about how this is going to work. He's going to answer some questions, but he's going to do it at the end. And I'll be there in the chat to be able to answer some questions. But let me be very specific in my wording. In the chat, let's just make comments. But if you have a question, pop it over into the Q&A section. If you look at sort of the bottom or wherever your toolbar is for Zoom, you're going to see the ability for you to click on a Q&A section. Click on that. That is where you're going to send your questions that we will either answer us here at JobTread, or I'll save those for live on-air webinar questions that we'll actually moderate to Dan at the end. So I think he said he's going to have some time that'll be a good amount of time for you guys to ask questions, and we really want you guys to be able to ask those questions. So make sure you're popping those over in the Q&A, and if you have any comments, make sure to pop those in the webinar chat, and then I'll go moderate there. So he is going to be presenting today, and his presentation is called How We Hit $1,200,000 in Our First Year. So everyone, please give a warm Pro Spotlight welcome to today's Pro Spotlight guest, our presenter, Dan Lee. Take it away, Dan.
Casey, thanks for the introduction. Hey everyone. So like Casey is saying, my name is Dan. I'm the CEO of Kane Remodeling here in Austin, Texas. I'll give you a little bit of background first, because it's kind of relevant as far as how this came about and why even we presented. So I started looking into, so I grew up in the trades. My dad was a home inspector and he was a remodeler. So summers and weekends, I'd be working with him. I went to business school out in Pittsburgh. And when I came out, I started working for some of the big national builders. I was always on the sales and project management side of things, never actually on the build side. But really fell in love with the industry, knew it from a young age, and was very good at it pretty early on. From there, I was recruited over to some very high-end custom remodelers kind of same thing, sales and project management, putting the projects together, grading them, helping out a little bit with design, and then managing them out the way through. Right around 2019, right before COVID hit, I was recruited off LinkedIn and got into tech sales, and that's where I stayed for about 5 years. And tech sales was very fun. It was very lucrative, but it was incredibly different. Instead of meeting people face to face and building projects, you know, to see how they created and went throughout the process, you're sitting behind a computer all day. You're sending out emails and you're just hounding people for deals. And like I said, it was a good experience because I was able to see how the big companies, you know, the multi-thousand people companies put their marketing together and their sales and their business processes. But right around that 4 or 5 year mark, I was like, you know, I'm not the type of person that can just sit behind a computer my whole life. So midway through 2023, I'm down here in Austin. I'm still working my tech jobs, but I was like, you know, I think I'd really like to be a remodeler. Have half a dozen flips on the side. I own rentals. I've done this type of work for myself, but I think I can actually do this well at a high level. So started really kind of exploring that and see what it would look like. Beginning of 2024, we went for it. I found JobTread even before we started, which was nice. So I didn't have to unlearn bad habits or port over any data from a different system. Everything that we started was in the JobTread system. So we've been able to build out over the last year and a half directly in the system, which has turned us into now, if we're not the fastest growing remodeler in Austin, we are definitely top 3. And I'll explain sort of how we got there. I was able to find a great business partner, a phenomenal guy. He also owned his own remodeling company at the time, but he was an installer and he's the best installer I've ever met. But for him, he wasn't all that great at sales. So by coming together, it says, hey, listen, I can sell the projects, I can design the projects, I can help with project management. You build it out and take it from contract to close. And I think we've got a really good thing rolling here. And that's what we did. So I went down to a boot camp or up to a boot camp in Dallas, you know, 2-3 months into our start, kind of early summer of last year. And I met Eric Fortenberry. And I just told him our story real quick. And he said, hey, you know, would you be interested in hopping on a podcast with me? And I didn't think anything of it, but about a week later, they hit us up and we got on that podcast. And then right around August, they said, hey, would you guys like to be a presenter? Well, at that time, we were 6 months in. And I remember it being 6 months in and we're at $600,000 in sales. And I was like, I don't know what value I can bring. Like most everyone on this call, most everybody that I talked to, I mean, they've been building for 5, 10, 15 years longer than I have. But what we do very well is we do an incredible job with presenting ourselves, presenting our project in sales. So 6 months in, 600,000 in sales. At that point, I was like, okay, we'll call it 1.2 million our first year. So that's kind of how this started. And then by that time, we had to have all of our presentation stuff ready by like November, early December. And then we spoke on it in January, which is about our 10 or 11 month mark. So the session overview real quick. So the things that have set us apart and the reason why we've been able to hit the ground running so quickly and have such great traction and deliver on such great projects. Like one of the things that we're most proud about is that we're not just selling these projects, we're creating awesome experiences for our clients. And that's not something that happens by accident. There has to be a lot of mindful decision-making to actually make that happen, right? But we'll talk about our philosophy and background. I am a top number sales guy, right? So I'm this whole conversation for the most part is going to be about how to drive revenue and how to think about revenue differently, right? Because if we put in an action, we are going to get a result. Now, sometimes that result isn't worth that action, but we will get one back. So we're going to kind of rethink growth and the different levers that we can pull in the business to drive growth. I'll talk about some of our key marketing and sales strategies, like especially early on where we were putting our money and what type of results we were seeing back. And it's so funny. I gave this presentation in January. I had it written end of November. So 6-7 months ago. What we are doing today is vastly different than what we were doing back then. But these are like steps in a ladder. So I'll try to bridge that gap as far as how this presentation ran in January and talk about, what we were doing then versus how we've gone another rung or two up that ladder, hit bigger projects and what we're doing now. After that, again, that's kind of the adapting plans, and we'll discuss that. And then I'll go over some of the tools I think everyone should be using. And a lot of these tools are free. They just take a little bit of know-how and work ethic. And I'll go over that and I'll show you what we're doing. And I can tell you from my presentation at JobTread Connect, that is what everybody is going to want access to. This is really what kind of changed our focus and changed the company that we are. And they're just little things and just little tweaks as far as like how you present yourself and how you talk about your projects. And then we'll get into questions. So the Kane Remodeling philosophy, this will come up multiple times throughout, and it's a little redundant, but the reason why I did it that way is because it doesn't matter about anything else. If you are the best salesman in the world, or you're the best installer in the world, or maybe you're the best at both, if you don't put certain things at the forefront, you're going to be a mediocre company at best. So our most important thing at all times is quality above all else. And that can be the project itself. That can be communication with the client, which again, sometimes we forget about this, but when we're running 4 or 5 projects at a time, that client only has their project and that is all they're experiencing and that's all they know. So when they wake up on Friday, or we're done with work on Friday until Monday, they're living in this dusty, dirty home or this uncompleted project, or they're visiting their home site and it's not where it needs to be. So by communicating and keep making sure that we are focusing on that, it goes a long way. We only hire the best, whether this be internal staff or whether this be subs. And we're very quick about getting guys out there that don't cut it, right? This was one that we had to learn a little bit along the way, but especially at the price point with what we're at now, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are, we're no longer being hired for our work, right? Because at our price point, everybody at that price point that can deliver on these sorts of projects all probably do pretty decent work. We're being hired because of our design and attention to detail and how we're presenting that. And I'll get into that as far as what that looks like for us. So yeah, and then for us as well, one of the things that we do is we stand behind our work. So I want to, that the homes that we do, that we at this point only take on bigger projects, but the homes that we do, every single one is a billboard for us indefinitely. So if we have a call from a client, I don't care how far out this is in the future, and they need some help with that, we're going to be there and we're going to help them with that. Okay. So 0 to 7 figures, what did it take? Again, this stuff's a little bit older, but from the point we started, I'd like to say March 1st is sort of where we actually said, hey, we're going to go. Again, me and Jesse, we both worked for other remodelers in the past. This wasn't our first go, but this was our first go together with our own company. From March 1st to when we gave the JobTread Connect Summit in January, I thought we'd be at 1.2 because I was like basing this off of August. We were actually at 1.4 million in sales. Our average ticket value at that time was just under $85,000 projects, over 17 client projects. Average per month was 136,000. And with the 2025 projection of 3 million, that's what I was projecting in January. And that holds true to today. And then at the time, I was very proud about, we have 12 reviews on Google, all 5 stars. You won't find a single review below 5 star for us anywhere online or any platform. And now I think we're up to like 19 or 20, but it holds true. That's really, really, really where we're putting our focus, because we want to be known as guys that you can just trust. The minute you sign a contract with us, throughout. So we're going to rethink growth, right? So in sales, every action that you do, you're going to get something out of that, right? So whether you're cold calling or door knocking or going to home shows, putting money in Angie's List or Google Ads or whatever it may be, what we're trying to do is figure out what is worth our time and what is worth our money, right? What's worth our dollars. So if I'm in an advertising flow of some sort, whether it be Google or Angie's or anything like that, and it cost me $1, I don't want to be getting back 50 cents or $1 back, right? I want to be getting $10 back or 15 or whatever it may be. So that's kind of what we need to think about. But if we're thinking about growth itself, this is just a high level equation, which equates to gross profit. So it's the number of leads that you have coming in. That's going to be your marketing. It's going to be times by your close rate, which is your sales, times by your average ticket percentage, right? Like how big are your jobs themselves? And we'll just call that systematic because that could be a little bit of everything. And then we're going to times that by your gross margin, which is how good are you at business? Now, I'll talk mostly about lead and close rate and things like that, but these four elements are what equals gross project. So if we think about this, where you have 10 leads a month coming in at a 25% close rate, an average ticket volume of $50,000, and a 25% margin, you're showing a gross profit of 31,000, right? Now, the reason why this is important to think about in this sense with just these four buckets, and you could break this down and find more or whatever, but let's keep it simple. You have four buckets: leads, close rate, average project size, and gross margin, is because each one is a lever, right? And I can adjust those depending on what I'm doing. So if I want my margin to go from 25% to 50%, I can just do that, right? I can just raise my prices, double my prices, wherever it may be, and my margin will go up 50%. But when I pull that lever, my close rate is going to drop dramatically, right? Because I just priced myself out. If this all remains the same, I'm giving out the same project, but I'm just charging a lot more for that. And because of that, I'm not going to be as competitive. Same thing with close rate, right? If my close rate goes really far up, but nothing else changes, my average, my leads stay the same. If say my margin stays the same, then my average ticket price is probably going down or something along those lines. Something changes. The one lever that we can control that will not directly affect any of the others is your leads. So if instead of getting 10 leads per month or 10 leads per quarter, I'm now getting 100 leads per quarter with a 25% close rate, average ticket price of 50,000, 25% margin. Instead of doing 31,000, now I'm doing 312,000, right? So what I'm really trying to do is just break these down into four buckets that we have control over. And all four of these we do have control over. Some are different, some are difficult. It's tough to get your close rate up, right? It's tough to get your average ticket up without everything else falling apart. But we can control each one of these. Personally, I think leads is the easiest one to improve. Now, if we go too much on it, we're going to start spending and then margin drops, but we'll talk about that. All right. So, and then same thing. And then I showed this one here. It's like, okay, so now we have leads and then we get a little bit more efficient. Margin goes up, numbers still go up, right? Number go up. That is good. So I'm going to talk about where we got our leads from initially, especially when we first started out, where we got them kind of, right around when we were doing the conference. So let's say midpoint of our journey so far. And then where we're getting them today. But the leads that come through, not all leads are equal, as we all know. There's some platforms where, man, for every 10 person that you get as a lead, you might only get 5 callbacks, or it's someone that just is looking for like a handyman type service, or just something that's not going to be a good fit for you, right? And then there's some leads where it's like a referral lead and, you're already signing that contract kind of before you walk through the door. They're just so sold on you and your project and what you've done for their friends. That's just super easy. So the lead quality to margin, this is really, really important. So the way that I break this down is there's 5 different levels of leads. The majority of the leads that are on the market and the ones that everyone is kind of paying for, whether it be through Google or Facebook or Angie or Thumbtack or anything like that, are going to be further down the triangle, right? So those would be our pay per lead competitive. Those are going to be the most abundant. They're the easiest to get in, especially during slow periods, right? If you just have to boost your numbers up quickly. They're also the lowest margin and the hardest to close. Because any lead that would be like a pay per lead competitive, I think of that as somebody that can ask you for a quote without having to do so much research as get on your website, right? If I can ask somebody for a quote just directly through like a Thumbtack app or something like that, I'm not asking one person, I'm asking like 8. And I don't really care that much about quality. I care much more about price, right? So the further we go down this list, sometimes we have to be there. Sometimes, we can't get all of our leads from any one area, but those should be like your fill-in leads at best, right? When we were starting off, those were the only leads we were getting. And they were the only leads we were getting because we hadn't built a reputation yet. And we hadn't built our credentials to show, hey, we are worth more than this, right? But everyone's got to start somewhere. The next tier up would be a level 4 lead. It's a little less out there, but still a lot of them. These would be the pay-per-lead but informed compete. I'm sorry, if Thumbtack and Angie's are tier 5, this would be like Google, right? Or somebody, you're still pay-per-lead, they're still probably going to be you and a few other companies, but they're going to have to at least get on your website. That's a good start. Then they at least have to like check out who you are a little bit. Next one up would be brand leads. These would be, Instagram, Facebook, things along those lines, where they're just a little bit more targeted. They still have to do a little research around you. And then the next ones up, which are the ones that everybody wants, are the referrals and repeat clientele. These are the type of leads, though, if you see that red line through there, that we call the quality filter. So these are leads that you will only get to if you do a phenomenal job, you carry a great reputation, and you've been in business long enough to cultivate these. And then you also put systems in place to help cultivate these, right? But starting off as a newer company, especially where we started for, we couldn't count on those because they just weren't available. Where now we're starting to get into those some. And, right now, maybe this year, that'll be 10% of our business. Next year, maybe 20 or 30. But eventually we want to get to the point where that's half of our business is referrals and repeat clientele. And then we're filling in the rest of the business that we need with like those brand leads or informed compete, right? So that's kind of what this is showing. Like where you are in your journey, you're going to have to start somewhere, but if you put quality as your focus, you do a great job. Eventually you start working your way up the triangle, because the higher up the triangle you go, those are the higher margin jobs with buyers that care more about quality than lowest price. And that's what we're all trying to get to. That's again, my philosophy. Yeah, and it's sprinkled in here a lot, but this just relates back to the only way we can get up the triangle is if we put the right things first. And for us, it's quality of communication, quality of project, quality of delivery, quality of standing behind our work, making sure we're there when we're needed, making sure we're going to do what we say we're going to do. If we're going to start on Monday, we're going to be there Monday. If we say we're going to be working on Friday, if my subs give me a call and say, hey, we're not going to be there, I'm putting somebody on a site to at least show face and make sure that we're doing something. But it's making sure that we're doing what we say we're going to do. And I think that's so important. And so few companies do that at a high level. That's really what is making the huge difference. So early on, really, what worked for us? So again, we have to separate ourselves. So I'm originally from Columbus, Ohio. And in the Midwestern market where I'm from, it's a very, very different market than down here towards Austin. In Columbus, there's not as many subcontractors, and we don't have the Hispanic labor pool up there in the same way that we do down here. So what that means is that there's less companies, but they're probably a little bit more seasoned, and they probably have a little bit more business practices behind them. So both have challenges as far as breaking into that market, right? Because I'm probably competing against companies that have more of their ducks in a row. We're down here in Austin, we're much closer to the border. There's a lot of Hispanic labor pools. There's a lot of subcontractors. So down here, it's easier to get subcontractors, but the competition is much more broad, and there's a much lower end price point of the market down here, which sets the rate for those type of clientele. So what we wanted to do right from the start was, take the jobs that we needed to survive, but really differentiate ourselves with saying, hey, there's two pools in Austin. There's the pool of design builders that can take you all the way from permit to close in-house, and you're not going to have to worry about a thing. And then there's the other guys, and we are not the other guys, right? And so that's really what we've had to kind of differentiate ourselves, but have been very successful doing that, especially once we started figuring out how to market ourselves a little bit. Some of the things that have worked really well for us as well is really creating incredible renderings and making sure that ahead of time we're really taking time to focus on the design. And I'll get into that because, again, at our price point now, it's no longer about who can do the job. It's about who can give me the best designs. And then improving job costing each project. Every project, every proposal that we do, everything, every single time we step in front of a client, I want to be 5% better, right? Like when we're in JobTread, your budgets, your templates, they should never be static. They should always be improving, always getting better. You're getting better at job costing. Maybe you're getting better at delivery, but we want to improve 5% from project to project. And what that means is at the end of each project, kind of sitting down with your team and just doing an autopsy as far as, okay, what did we do well? And then what areas do we need to improve? Do we need to improve our schedule? Do we need to improve our communication? Were these subs Did they live up to where we needed to for our reputation? And then if not, how do we adapt from that? And I don't remember, I had client acquisition, 10% of revenue. That's what we shot for early on. So in our first year, we did like 1.4 million in sales. We probably spent $140,000 on client acquisition, which was massively high, like disgustingly high. But that was to get us the traction we needed to get started. This year will probably be closer to 6 to 7%. Next year, hopefully it'll be closer to like 4 or 5%. So as you get going, you need a lot less because I'm paying for a lot less of my leads and the job's just getting bigger. Right. So that's how we started. That's not going to be right for everybody. Coming from a tech job, I was able to like bootstrap this a little bit myself, but it was tough. This is a tough business, man. It's not the easiest thing in the world. Okay, so next I'm going to show you the different, and again, this is early. I'll explain what we're doing now, but early on, these were the platforms we were using. And the best thing about putting together one of these presentations is it gave me time to really go back and dive in and figure out the research as far as what we got from each one, right? So we used Thumbtack from March of 2024 to December of 2024, and then we pretty much have let it go. Thumbtack is really good if you can just beat everybody on price, like if you're the lowest price producer and you can turn a lot of jobs or you're doing small bid jobs. So if I was like a fence guy, or if I just did landscaping or windows or doors or something like that, maybe roofs, I would definitely do Thumbtack. And even if I'm not the lowest price, I would definitely do Thumbtack because the number of leads you can get off Thumbtack is just absolutely ridiculous. Like if you turn that thing up and you're willing to pay for like the most in each category, you can get 2, 3, 4 leads a day. And those leads do usually call you back, which is different than what you get for a lot more. But so this is what we did early on. It was 82 leads. 50% of those leads, give or take, went to an actual proposal. So either no callback or non-responsive or just bad fit. But 1 out of 2 is pretty dang good in this type of pay per lead. So each lead was around $165. We probably paid $12,000 for a total. Out of that, we got 8 projects, which is about $1,500 per project, which is reasonable depending on the project size. The problem that we saw with with Thumbtack is that the project size just wasn't big for us. And the other issue is that Thumbtack is a pretty techie app, which meant that the average age on Thumbtack was very low. And I'll get into that later. But what we have found, our core clientele, so where we are today is now we really don't take on projects under $125,000. I won't do anything underneath of a large kitchen or a very large master bath, but usually a combination of the two, or like a whole home remodel or first floor remodel, something along those lines. And we've been able to build through that through reputation and growth and being able to present ourselves. But our average clientele is probably 55 to 70 years old. And it makes sense if you think about it, right? They've been in their house 25, 30 years, or maybe less, 15, 20 years. Sometimes they've moved, but they've had enough time to build equity and build investments to be able to drop $100,000 plus on a remodel. When we're dealing with apps or platforms that deal with a younger clientele, they just don't have that time to accumulate those type of funds, right? So that's what we saw with Thumbtack. And because of that, Thumbtack was a very unprofitable platform for us. But again, depending on what you do, if you were like a fence guy or a deck guy or maybe roofs, definitely windows, landscaping, this would probably be a very good platform for you. The next one we did was Angie's List and Home Advisor. And we will be, so at this time it said till present, we will be ending Angie's List and Home Advisor this month. This one was different. It puts you on a yearly contract. The biggest problem with Angie's List that we saw was just the unresponsiveness rate and the bad fit of the jobs. Thumbtack did a really good job as far as funneling, like, hey, I want someone that wants a full kitchen remodel, and that's what you get. And sometimes you get stuff that's a little bit out where, hey, I just want a couple of cabinets replaced or I just want countertops. But Angie's List just does that all day long. And so it's a much different beast. So because of that, for every one 5 leads we get in, one actually gets into a proposal. And that can get pretty tiring, having to show up or call and just not getting answers back, things along those lines. So we currently pay $800 a month flat rate for them. So $9,600 over a 12-month period. We did get 6 projects off it. Our average project size was just under 100,000. And our average client age was 65,000. I do think that the numbers on this one are skewed though, because we did get one project off of this, which ended up being like 360,000 by the time it was all done, which probably skewed everything up north, basically, right? It was one massive project. Angie's List is more web-based than app-based, so it does get an older clientele that would use it. So average age 65, right in our sweet spot. But because of that one job, I do think that this platform probably looks better than what it actually felt. So, like I said, we're moving off Angie's List. But again, it would be a great place for someone to start or for fill-in. So if you're starting to see gaps on your schedule, you're worried about, making sure that your guys are staying in work every single day. I think Thumbtack or Angie's List could be good fill-ins around those. I just don't think I'd build my business long-term off those unless I was a smaller project or a low price deliverer. Some of the best things that we ever did was canvassing, signage, and truck wraps. So we try to be very professionally branded. We wear, Kane Remodeling polos. Our workers wear Kane Remodeling t-shirts, black t-shirts, all of them. All my subs, I give the t-shirts out to as well. We try to be very well branded, very professional looking. Our trucks are wrapped. We put yard signs in people's yards. We'll canvas communities in the nicer area. If I'm in $1 million house, we'll do like door hangers and stuff like that. And those have been pretty successful. So, off of that, at this time, we had gotten 3 jobs, I think, out of that. Let's see, printed booklet, yard sign, truck wrap. Yep. And the average project at that point was like 118 or so. And these numbers have gone up since then. So this has been very good for us. And it's been one that, seeing that not only are we getting bigger jobs from this, but we're kind of doubling down on more profitable jobs. This is where we're now putting more of our focus and more of our time and more attention. Like, how can we improve these type of things? And this sort of makes sense, right? So if we talk about these 3, so canvassing, sign wraps, or truck wrap, or signage or truck wrap, Angie's and Home Advisor or Thumbtack. If we go back to like where the quality of the leads are, Angie's and Thumbtack is still a level 5 lead. It's incredibly competitive. It's you and 5 or 6 or 7 other companies all giving a quote, see who's the lowest. The truck wraps and the yard signs and just the brandage that you guys will wear is a brand lead. So in my buyer's mind, I'm doing this $300,000 project on a $1.5 million house, and he's walking by and he sees it. We've already built credibility because we're good enough for his neighbor, right? So that is going to be a different type of buyer. So the one I'm talking about currently, that's exactly what it was. This one was off Angie's List, over 300,000, yard side in the yard. One of the neighbors walks by and sees it. His project's going to end up being a $250,000 project, and we didn't have to compete on it. He saw us. We went through our process with them. We showed everything else. Didn't even call us second contract. He's like, yep, I want you to do my project. We won't get those from Google. We won't get those from Angie's or Thumbtack. Those are brand leads. Those are like more of those quality leads. And that's what we're trying to flow up to as a company. So yeah, that's been very good for us. Again, average age has been a little bit older, but it's because it's in our nicer, bigger homes that we're doing these especially hard. And that's kind of the neighborhood demographic. What did not work yet? So for us, one of the challenges, and for all the companies, is no matter where you are, you had to start somewhere. And we do a great job on projects. I'm very proud about what we're putting out. I would walk anybody through, any of my previous clients, I could call up and use as a referral. But no matter about all of that, I still have a Better Business Bureau date of early 2024. And so as we get further out, each month that we're further out from that, that'll become less of an objection, right? Last year was horrendous. I think probably we would have done double the business, but that's a real thing. That's a real concern. It's like, okay, have these guys been long enough to deliver? Have they learned enough? And are they going to be around when I need them? So I get that. But for us, the further we get out from that, the easier it will be. I don't know if it's 10%, 20%, 30% of clients that just won't call us once they see that. But the further we get out from that, that won't even be an issue. And then starting off, low review numbers, guys. So I can't stress enough how important your Google rating is. If you don't have any Google ratings, good luck. 1 out of 4 people that you could be doing business with is actually going to use you. I don't know if that's accurate, but feels right. And same thing, if your Google rating is below 4.0 and you have 30, 40 leads, you would make more money if you closed your business down, started a new LLC, and started fresh, right? Your Google ratings and your online ratings and how you present yourself online is the single most important thing you can do, because nobody's going to spend 50,000, 100,000, 200,000, whatever it may be with a company without doing just a mild amount of research on them, right? And where do we all start? We all start on Google. So that's something that's incredibly important. Really focus on that, really put time and effort into that, really practice cultivating the good leads or the good reviews. When you've done a great job on a project, have them speak for you. Shoot a video of their place, talk to them about it, make sure you're getting that review. But that's wildly important. Early on for us, lack of formal sales process was big, right? It took a while. Tech sales is different. Even the new home sales I was doing before, or remodeling sales I was doing before, it's different than what we're doing now. So it took a while to put those practices in place to where now we just feel like we're kind of cranking on all cylinders. And then a big one for us was early lack of design process. So as far as channels that we've tried that haven't worked, Google Ads, I've done Google Ads a few times and I've been incredibly underwhelmed. And we've thrown a lot of money at it. I'm talking like $15,000, $20,000. So it wasn't like we just didn't give it enough. We tried. I just haven't been able to be successful with Google Ads yet. Our conversion rate's bad. Yeah, they just don't close. I don't know what it is, but for the time being, we're staying away from that. At this time, Facebook and Instagram also was not doing well for us, but that has changed considerably. Now Instagram's one of our best platforms, but I look at it a little bit differently, and I'll get into that here in just a little bit. And then also what did not work at this time back in like late November, December was home shows. Because we had just done one and it did not work. Home shows are now our best revenue source by far, hands down, not even close. So Google Ads, this is where it was. So I've done two runs of Google Ads. We've gotten one job off it, pretty decent job, like $75,000 kitchen, but for $20,000 in ads, probably not worth the time until we figure out what it is and how to optimize that a little bit better. It's just not an area that I'm willing to throw more money at yet until we get either a little further down the road or really figure out what we're doing. Facebook and Instagram, I was doing it wrong. So early on, I was doing Facebook ads and I would just, create an ad or create a post or whatever and think, okay, if I put this out into the ether, I'm going to get people coming and saying, hey, I want business, or I want to do business with you. That did not work at all. What we have done though, let's see, I'll shoot you guys over here, is we started creating videos for the projects once we're done. Like this one, I'm inviting people to the home show next month here, or next weekend here in Austin, and just talking about our different projects and the different things that we're doing. And what I have found is I'm not bringing in new clients, but what I am bringing back are like people that I gave quotes to 3, 4, 5 months ago that fell off the sales process somewhere, are coming back in and saying, hey, we're ready to get going with you. I saw your stuff on Instagram. Looks really cool. Let's go. So for me, that's very valuable. It's not a success in the way we thought we would hit success, but it's still all within the realm. So Instagram has quickly become, well, I think one of our most valuable assets for sure. We do House as well. House has been decent. I would still put it with Angie's List or Thumbtack. It's not amazing, but it's decent. Okay, so that's Instagram. And then the home show. So at this time, this was November, and we just done a home show, and the home show was an incredible experience for us. We have a big 10 by 20 booth. It's very well branded. We look great. We had all of our stuff to talk about, and off that first home show, I got 30 leads out of that, and those 30 leads turned into 60 actual proposals. We had some setup costs for buying our booth and everything like that, but now we pay about $4,000 per home show. So the cost is far less than what it used to be. But out of those 30 leads, I was stoked. I was just going out and giving them left and right, and they're all high quality. The average proposal, these are big jobs, over 100,000. Like it was good. It was high quality. These are buyers. I didn't close a single one of those on our first home show. And that really got me to thinking as far as like, wait, what's going on? I'm a pretty good sales guy. We're a pretty good company. Like we're moving. What's happening? So I took back all the feedback and all the comments I was getting from everybody. And what I heard over and over and over again was, Dan, we really like you. We really like your company. We trust that you would do a good job, but we just feel like this company is going to do better and help us design it. Or this company is going to give us a more polished product. And I heard that over and over and over again. So, we sat back after that, and I kind of locked myself in my office for 3 or 4 working days and said, okay, how can we improve our design process to overcome that objection? And so what we came up with was a design book basically off Canva. And so this one that I created at that time, it's actually a hardback. For us, these cost, I'll show you, probably like $50 a pop, which sounds expensive, but when you're paying 160, 200, 250 per lead to spend $50 on an asset that you leave with the client in their home every time, and that raises your close rate 3-4 times, it's well worth it to us, right? So this is our design book that I leave with the client. It tells about us. It tells about who we are and what we do in all of our process. There's a lot more to it than this. And then one of the things, it tells about our process, what they can expect. I have some of our featured projects that we have done in the past. And again, this is a living document. So as we go, it'll continue to improve. But one of the things that we also do in here is I have all the different design styles. So for these, and I tell the clients, the stuff at the beginning is mine, right? Those are our projects. Those are stuff that Kane Remodeling has done. Stuff towards the end is design styles. And I'm just laying out different ideas for you so you can get an idea as far as what's what. And then when we're in our design process, we can help you put it together and really build you something custom. So talk about traditional kitchens, contemporary kitchens, transitional, farmhouse, modern, all this type of stuff, right? But we spend a lot of time going into what each style is and what they can expect for each one. And now that design, like, hey, we're not getting enough design out of you guys, that objection is no longer a thing, right? So our first home show was it was a great learning experience, but a complete bust. Like 30 leads, got nothing out of it. Our second home show was in January, just after JobTread, I think like the week after, and we got probably $500,000 business out of it. And then so we have another one coming up next weekend, or this coming weekend here in Austin, and I suspect that we'll probably get another $300,000 to $500,000 business off it, because now we know what we're doing. We've taken a lot of our time and processes and really focused on design. But home shows, if you guys aren't doing them, I would highly recommend it. If you have any questions as far as what I would recommend you do at the home show, as far as how you present yourself, how you do your backdrop, those type of things, like this is a really good spot, especially as a remodeler, because in my market, there's like me and maybe 2 or 3 other remodelers there, and they're the big boys. Like they're the guys I want to compete against. And then there's 15 window companies and 10 roofing companies, right? And all these other type of stuff. But if you're going there for remodeling or big projects, it's me and 2 or 3 others, and they're the exact type of clientele I want to be competing against, because I know my price will be somewhere in the middle, which is perfect. So adapting plans. So this is kind of what we talked about. So 2024, we finished 1.4 million. This year we're going to hit 3. Next year I'd like to hit 6, and then the year after I'd like to hit 9. But the way that we do this business, I want it to change. I don't want everything to be paid leads like it was last year, right? moving forward, we want to start getting into those referral and repeat business leads, more brand leads, things like that. So how do we create the structures? This what we think about is like, how do we create the structures and systems in place to start driving that? And a lot of it is how we show ourselves. It's how we produce our projects. It's how we put them out there. It's how we create this brand, because it's not just a company. You're creating a brand, right? Nobody needs a $200,000 kitchen remodel. They want it, and they want that. So they want a company that they can see that's going to deliver that for them, right? And that's what we're trying to produce. But this is just showing you sort of the direction that we're trying to go into. And when we do this, our marketing and our spend percentage will drop significantly, right? So first year, maybe we spent 10% of our revenue on marketing. This year, maybe it's like 6 or 7, right? Next year, maybe it's like 3 or 4, and so on and so forth. But we only do that by getting off of the low quality, low margin leads, creating a company that is sought after, that people want to do business with. And, it's a process, but that's what we're currently trying to do. There's my philosophy again. It's sort of redundant, but it's important, right? Quality. Just think about quality. If you do really, really good quality, the rest is going to work out. So 2025 strategy. So some of the things that we're doing, we are in the process of, I'm in the process of building another company, which is going to be hand-in-hand partner with Kane Remodeling. So a lot of you guys probably use ProSource or like Bella Kitchen Bath or whatever, like these companies that sell kitchens, cabinets, countertops, flooring, appliances, tile, things like that. We're going to build our own here in Austin. And what that's going to allow us to do is I'm going to be able to funnel all of my sales through that company and do all my design in-house. And then I'm going to funnel all of those leads that come through without a GC or a builder attached through Kane Remodeling. So just thinking outside the box as far as like how we can create an environment that's just going to help growth and then help processes improve as well, right? By having a set aside company just for PM and design, we're going to be much more efficient. So implement client review and referral program. We want to do a software-based client review and referral program. We're not quite there yet, but I think by the end of the summer, we'll probably put one in place. Right now, doing big projects, 2, 3 at a time, maybe 4, it's pretty easy to keep manage over all that stuff. But as we continue to grow, I want to have something there that's consistent. That way, those Google reviews are going from 20 to 30 to 40, and we don't have to think about it. Implement additional paid lead services. We did implement House. It's been okay. Nothing amazing, but not horrible either. And then Google Ads, and I won't do that for a while. For us, we're really focusing in on the designery, really focusing in on the home show, really focusing on the branding type of stuff. If I can get another branded truck out on the road here soon, definitely going to. And then exactly, increase brand exposure. Those are the big ones for us. Okay, so and looking back now, right? I mean, we're pretty new to this, but I think we do a good job of what we're doing. Where to start? Your image is everything. We are image companies. Unless you're doing like hazardous type stuff or like clean outs or something like that, more than likely the majority of your projects aren't 100% like absolutely needed, right? They're wanted. Like somebody wants that new kitchen. They want that new master bathroom. Like that is a want, and that's a good want. And I will fulfill it all day long. But they're only going to take that from companies that they think can do that, right? So you're an image company first, and you're a builder second. So online reviews are incredibly important. You have to be over 4.5, but you really have to be close to 5. You have to be like 4.8, 4.9, 4.5. So whatever you can do to do that, most important thing you do. The second is that your website should be your local market industry leading. You need to look at the website of your 4 or 5 biggest competitors and see how their website looks against yours, and bring somebody in who's unbiased, right? Because these are all our babies. Like we bled and sweat over these companies. So we don't want to hear that anything's wrong. Bring someone in, from your staff or friends that's unbiased. Say, hey, which is better? Well, why is this better? What areas is better, right? But your website doesn't need to be better than theirs. And if they are, you'll do well. You have to at least be active on social media platforms. You don't have to be like going after it necessarily, but you have to be active with at least monthly posting. And the reason for that is, again, when someone's going to do a $100,000 remodel, they're going to do some baseline researches. They're going to probably look at BBB. They're definitely going to look at Google, and more than likely, they're going to at least look at your Instagram or Facebook if you have that up, right? When someone looks at our Instagram or Facebook, this is what I want them to see. I want it to be curated. I want them to see best of house winner for 2025. I want them to see all of our different projects that we're talking through. I want them to actually like see us not as like a company that's just going to give them a bid, but as its own entity, like its own brand, its own personality, right? That is what we're going for. And that has been very, very successful for us. Proposals. Your proposals should get better every single job. So early on, our proposals, were kind of hit or miss. We were learning, but now, man, these things are amazing. So JobTread now lets us do like a cover. You should be taking advantage of that. You can also drop in a couple documents. You should be taking advantage of that as well. So these documents can be made off Canva. So for us, we talk about our process, we talk about our warranty, we talk about, quality means doing it right when no one is looking. We also have some of our 3D renderings that we've made for clients in there so they can kind of get a better idea of what they understand. The other thing about our proposal is, I don't line itemize because if you want to work with us, like this is the price. I don't want to negotiate per line because if you take off the flooring tile, maybe my tile guy is going to charge me more on the surround. And I don't want to have to there's just a lot of back and forth. It creates speed bumps along the way. But what we do is each one of these, as you know, has a price attached to it that is going to cost us. And then what we're going to refer it on to the client with. But each one talks a little bit about what it does. Each one has an image so they can look. So for instance, if I get down here this is a bathroom. But if I get down here as far as, okay, what's the shower bench look like? Oh, okay, that's a nice looking shower bench, right? The other thing it does is when you build these out and you add images, it gives it weight. So a lot of proposals I see from my competitors, and I love looking at competitors' proposals, are just like a few lines with a few numbers, and it's in 1 or 2 pages, right? $150,000. When I hand this over to the client, usually same day or next day, because this is already built out for me in templates with options that they can add or take away, which raise and lower the price. And they're scrolling through this and they're looking. And this just talks about every single thing, and then we get our final price. It just feels like more. It also feels like if we're going to spend the time and attention to detail and our proposals look like this, what is our final project going to look like, right? And that's true. It's the little things. So your proposal should be really built out, and it should never stop being built out. You should continue to improve that every single job because we learn stuff on every single job, and I'm sure you guys do as well. And then and branded and professional crews. That's an easy one. I mean, t-shirts are $4 or $5 when you get them 100 at a time. Give it to your subs, especially the guys that you use all the time. Like my tile guy, my tile crew, we probably fill up 80% of their schedule. They are all in branded stuff. So crews should be branded and professional. And if you have guys that are on your site that are not branded with your stuff, you should just at least ask them that they are all branded with their own stuff. So it looks professional. There's nothing worse than someone coming in with torn shirts, torn jeans, and smoking cigarettes on site. It's just not the image you're looking for. I've seen it far too much. Okay, so tools everyone should be using. I've already gone over a few of these. So Canva. You should be using Canva. Canva is this guy right here. So this is, where we created this book, where we created the documents for the front of our budget. One of the things that we're going to start doing that we're going to get away from is I'm no longer going to put out price budgets early on because it's too hard to account for all the changes. So what we're going to in the future is going to be a design plan where a client's going to lock in with us, pay $5,000 or so, and we're going to give them 3 designs, kind of like a silver, gold, platinum plan. And then they can pick the elements they want. And then we come back with our final price. And then if they go with us, that $5,000 will come off that final price, right? But this is where you create those type of documents, right? These are some of our renderings. So for instance, when we're doing a bathroom, like this is what we're handing them ahead of time so they can see it. You should be using Canva for sure. Should also be using ChatGPT. Most of my verbiage or whatever I'm doing content is going to be written on ChatGPT. I'm going to be working with it as far as what I want exactly, but it'll save you a lot of time. It'll be a lot more professional. It's much more uh edited, so you're not going to have spelling miscues or anything along those lines. Um but yeah, these are things that do not. ChatGPT is free. Canva is free to use it, and then if you print it out, it costs you money. But these are all free. Fiverr, Fiverr is where we get our renderings from. So you can get on Fiverr and look for graphic design artists, and they're usually out of like India or Pakistan or someplace like that. But for instance, I can do a bathroom and I'll send her over whatever my designer gives me, or even hand draw them like floor plans with different elements and tell them all the pieces I want everywhere. So list out like links as far as like the tile, the flooring, and the cabinets. Send it over to them for $120. They'll come back with this bathroom that'll have 10 different pictures attached from every angle and every like inside the shower, outside the shower, freestanding tub, vanities, all this type of stuff. And $120, and now I can incorporate that into my entire package and sell that for far much more. But what it does is, when we're coming to bat and I'm sitting down in front of a potential client and I'm showing them this is what you're going to get with us. Again, like design was my biggest thing early on, is like, you're not winning these jobs because these other guys are giving design. Now, like, nobody's doing this, and we're crushing it. And then trustindex.io. This is a cool one. So this one costs a little bit. I don't know if it's like $10 or something like that, $10 a month. But what it does, so this is our website. So we have some of our client testimonials. So again, when we do videos, it's not always just me. If I can get a client to sit in front of a camera, I will, and we'll do that. But what TrustIndex.io is I was not dead. Yeah, so it's this guy right here. So if you are using Thumbtack, Google, Angie's, whatever you're using that holds Google Start or holds ratings, it will pull directly from those and put them directly onto your website, and you'll have the Verified by Trust Index. So the thought process behind this is, when someone comes and looks at our website, I want them to stay right there and get all the information they need up to making a call and setting up an appointment, right? So if they have to go somewhere else where they can hit a Google link to make sure that we have good ratings, our competitors are advertising against our name, just like your competitors advertise against yours, right? I don't want to give them the opportunity of clicking on our competitor, so I want them to stay on my website until they reach out, right? So that's the idea behind that. It's not a big thing, but I like it. I think it looks nice and goes a long way. All right, and these were some of the examples, right? So SEO blog, kind of same thing as like Instagram. You're not going to get clients off that, but it is going to show your relevancy and that you know what you're talking about. So kitchen trends, 1,000-word SEO keyword heavy blog post for me. Fiverr, these are like some of the renderings that we get out of that, right? And again, I'm giving this to our potential clients and showing them this is what you'll get before we ever get started, so we're all on the same page. Canva, we already gone over the book, really went a long way for us. And then trustindex.io, we just went over that as well. Okay, guys. So, I mean, that's pretty much it. We haven't been at this that long, but I'm very proud about where we are. I'm very excited for where we're going. And yeah, we just, things have always changed. They're always going to change, but I think change is good. But yeah, home show, all this type of stuff. That's pretty much it.
Love it. Dan, thank you so much, my man. I really appreciate that. That was a lot of really great information. We do have some questions that I want to throw out to you, but also to let you guys know that if while Dan's talking or answering any of these questions, if you guys have follow-up questions, pop it over there in the Q&A and we'll make sure that we get them answered. So let's see. All right. So we're going to start at the top. Michael Wright asked a little bit ago, if you would mind sharing what your initial startup cost was. And I'm assuming this is just generally business-wise. No, again, you can choose to share this or not, or not.
Yeah. So no, you're good. So initial startup cost, man, never ending. Like, you know what I mean? Like we're this is um it wasn't like we bought in or anything like that, right? We formed an LLC from the start and then we just grew as we went. But so we probably took a little bit of a loss in the first year, at least on paper, right? Because you get to write everything off. But, Q1 of this year, we did 650,000 in sales with $170,000 profit. So whatever loss we took last year is better this year. But there was no exact startup cost. It was just like, okay, we're going to be short this week by, 10 grand. So I would just kick it in and then, try to pull that out as we go further. But to start something like this and to not think it's going to take money, I think would be wrong. If I was an installer and that's all I did, and then I tried to grow it slowly that way, you could probably do it. But if you want to like hit it and hit it hard, it's going to cost some money, and it just is what it is. I wish I had a better number for you, but it's just when money's needed, money gets in, and then you make your money once things are good.
Absolutely. No, that's good. Matt Klingerman asked, I'd love recommendations on how to best present ourselves at home shows. I know you mentioned that you guys had some thoughts. So yeah, he'd love to hear them.
Yeah. So what I would do and what we do. So he's going to do something like this. So let's see, home show booth kits. All right, so this is what you're going to do. So there are companies that do something like this, backdrops. And these backdrops, they're not cheap, but they're not horrendous either. So if you do a 10-foot booth, it'll be like this. We do a 20-foot booth because I want double the space. Just because. And on this, what I would do is they're very easy to put up. They're on these like little skeletons, which they just sort of pop up. You get this nice backdrop front. I would put my best projects like on one side, like your best kitchen, your best bathroom, whatever you may do, like a couple of them, but your best, most prettiest stuff. And then on the other side, I would write, something catchy as far as like ours is like Austin's trusted quality remodeler, right? Within the list of some of the things that we do, kitchens, bathrooms, full home remodels, things along those lines. But it's just like little stuff like this. If you drop 2 grand one time into building the best booth that you can possibly build, that's a little bit of money up front. It definitely is. But when you're at that home show and you're getting 20, 30 leads and the guy across from you who just has a little banner probably got like 4, it'll pay for itself the first time through. So that's one of the things that we do. And ours is pretty, I don't know, flamboyant, I'd say.
That's awesome. All right. Chris Miller asked, how do you handle leads that are low quality leads respectfully without wasting yours or maybe their time?
I look for budget immediately. So with what we do, my guys are expensive, the guys that I have, but they're that way because they're very, very, very good. And I say that up front, like, hey, listen, John, I'd love to work with you, but just so that you're aware, I only have the capacity to take on 2, 3 jobs a month, maybe 4, right? And we only take on bigger jobs because my guys are expensive and we do a great quality of work. Do you have a budget in mind that you're looking for? Because I'll help you out right now, not waste your time or mine, and let you know if I'm a good fit for you or not, right? And people don't balk at that. And if they do balk at that, then you'd be like, listen, I really can't take on jobs for under 75K. It's not that I don't want to. I just don't have the man hour to be able to do that and do it profitably. And then, but you do not want to be figuring out that they're a bad fit after you've given a proposal. That's way too much time and way too much energy. You got to do that on the phone. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Jackie Kentel actually has a question about your Google review process. And do you have a program that lets you see the Google review before it's posted?
No, I currently don't. So we will soon, eventually. Well, I don't know about see it before it's posted. Probably. It's probably part of those review whatever. But for us, it's really about just making sure we're focusing on every house that we do, that we have a time when we're doing like our final walkthrough that we are just specifically asking for it. And if they'll do it in front of me, that's even better. Like it's like, hey, take out your phone right now. This would really help. Everyone gets busy. Could you just do this real quick for me? But it's just making sure that that's an ongoing thing. And we could still do better with it, right? I'm leaving reviews on the table. I know I have more jobs than what I have reviews, but by making that a central effort, it'll go a long way.
Yeah. And then anonymous attendee, mysterious, said, "Do you do your videos in house or hire someone? And then if you are doing it in house, what equipment are you using?"
No, absolutely not. We hired that out 100%. It is well worth it every single time. So I will show you guys behind the curtain on some of this stuff. So we use a company called and they're local, so you don't have to figure out in your market who does what. But Caliber Media is who we use. They so whoever your multi-millionaire listing realtors are using, use that guy, right? Because they're really good. And they're going to be easy to find because those type of realtors post constantly. So for us, we use Caliber, and our type of cost, we'll do one shoot every 2 weeks, pretty much of whatever best project I have at stage, right? So if I have something that's pretty, I can't really do much in demo phase, but if drywall's up, you can walk through and talk about it. And they charge us 1,000, maybe $1,100, and I will get 4 videos out of that. So 4 90-second videos. And sometimes the client's involved or giving testimonials, or sometimes I'm just walking through and saying like, hey, look at this under cabinet microwave, really cool. And back of the island, what we did work with and things like that. But we've seen some really good traction. And again, it's not new leads yet, but it's a lot of people that I just thought were dead in the water. It's like, oh yeah, hey, I saw that. The other thing we do with Instagram is I do boost posts. So once I get some of these that I really like or something's up, I will then boost it for, $50 a day, $100 a day, wherever we're at, wherever we can do at the time. And it really helps our reach. And basically, I've only started doing this over the last 3 or 4 months hard. And, we've gone from basically nothing to this. And, I think that we'll continue to grow that brand. But when I look at the companies that I want to be when we're grown up as a company, they nail this. Like they crush at this. So, oh.
Yeah, nice. Ike asked, who do you hire for the actual project design after you get the contract?
So I had an architect, a local architect that actually we met at the first home show we were at. And he would do the plans and prints for me and things along those lines. As far as the design goes, I was pretty much doing most of that myself and just pulling up stuff off Pinterest stuff. I was like, oh, this looks cool. And working with the clients to figure out what they liked and really having them run their own Pinterest page as well, really finding what they like. And then I would send it over to the lady that I use off Fiverr, and she'd come back to the drawings, and we just built that. That wasn't the best for a lot of different ways, but it was a good place to start. Now I used an architect. And in fact, it's so important to us that I've asked him to just join us. So starting July 1st, he's going to shut down because he didn't have any employees, but he was very good at what he did. So we're just going to hire him directly, and he's going to be a minority partner in my company because like I can sell him, right? Like we have a licensed interior designer on staff, right? These other companies don't, right? This is what he produces. I can sell that. But that is how important I view design at this point. Early on, I thought interior designers weren't worth anything and overcharged. Year and a half in, you're like, nope. that is where the money's at. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, okay, so then I'll jump to a question that kind of has to do with your staffing. What does your staffing look like at, kind of a 1.5 million revenue? Where
Yeah. Yeah. So early on, when the company started, I had this like altruistic view as like, oh, we're going to hire everybody in house and everybody's going to be on salary, and all of our labor is going to be in house. Found out real quick that's not the way to do it. You want your tilers to only do tile and your drywall guys to only do drywall every single day because they're faster, more efficient, and just do a better job. And then also you want to be paying those guys on a per job basis, right? Because they're incentivized to be in quick. Or if you're paying somebody salary, then they're in and out. So currently it is me and Jesse, who I bumped him up to minority partner as well. He's like our master level carpenter, phenomenal. And then we have one guy underneath Jesse who's also a carpenter, kind of installer. And then we're going to be bringing it on Jesus, who's going to be uh, interior designer, head of procurement, head of design. So what we're planning on doing, and the way that we're going to structure this, is we're going to keep a small internal team, especially on this side of house. But I'm going to take the jobs from initiating and marketing and business function to contract signing. And then contract signing, I hand it over to Jesus. Jesus then takes it through design and procurement, and he hands it off to Jesse, and Jesse does it. But that's pretty much as big as we'll get on this side of house. It'll be probably the three of us with maybe one or two people just kind of helping and floating type stuff. And then as we grow, I'll pull on more positions maybe under the designery for us. So I keep that salary away from this company and put it on the other. And that's where we might get into like project managers, or we might get, because Jesse's basically a project manager now for us, right? But I also have other project managers that do 1099 work, and I just pay them hourly basically because they hop around. But yeah, we're trying to get very lean but very efficient.
Nice. So we have several kind of categories of questions that have been popping up. So one from Gary, kind of about you whenever you just got started with your company. He asked, when you started, what that last year, how did you approach the topic of being new to the business when you had no previous work with that specific company?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it is just walking in with confidence. I mean, that's what it is. I've always been in this industry. I grew up in this industry. I've worked for builders and remodelers in the past. And when I'm going through and you're listening to the client, and then you're painting the picture, right? So you're taking what they give to you, and then you're giving it back with, this is how we'll do it. This is the issues that we're going to run into. These are the challenges that we're going to have to overcome. And then this is the project as it is. And you're painting that picture back to them. They stop questioning. So I don't know. That's a hard one, man. It's a hard one to kind of nail it on, but that is the epitome of sales, right? And that's what I've done pretty much my entire adult life, is just like selling to the client that you're trustworthy. You stand behind what you say you're going to do, and you know what the hell you're talking about. That's kind of it. Like it will get easier, and it has gotten easier just the further we've gotten out from that start date, right? Like now we're a year and a half in, and that will still come up. I'm sure, never to my face, but I'm sure people don't call because they're like, too new. But a year and a half from now, we're at the 3-year mark. That'll be less of a problem. 5 years, it won't even be a problem at all. So it's just something that everybody has to overcome.
Yeah, no, that's good. So we, again, let me tackle this, and then there's several questions that kind of go together. But Brian asked, from approved to start of a design project. Let me read that again. From approved to start design to project start on. He's given you like a very specific example: a $250,000 first floor remodel. What would be your average time frame of completion?
First floor remodel, $250,000. I got one going right now. We're doing a kitchen, master bathroom, a hall bath, first floor flooring. It's about $250,000 project, maybe 232, somewhere in there. We will be done with that one in 8 to 10 weeks. Construction. So from start of construction to finished job, 8 to 10 weeks. We're about 4 weeks in right now. Design is tricky, man. Sometimes people can run through design in 2 freaking weeks, and then sometimes it takes people 2.5 months. And a lot of it has to come with for the homeowner. Like these people took 2 months, and it's because he's an engineer by trade. And so he just had to sit and think about everything over and over and over and over again. And that's fine. We can work with that, right? But I think it's setting the right expectations up front, that like design is design. And there's nothing that we can do about that. But the faster you can get back to us and the faster we can hit these meetings, the quicker we can be done there. And then we get into permitting, where I'm at. But the construction is the one that you control, right? If you have guys showing up on site every single day, like we turn kitchens over in 4 to 6 weeks, sometimes 8 if it gets real custom. Sometimes you'll hear horror stories of guys that take 6 months. And it's because guys aren't showing up every day. But if you have guys showing up every single day on your schedule, even if stuff sometimes needs to get redone, or they're like, we just did this $60 Walker Zanger tile rug for underneath of a freestanding tub, and my tile guy did it at a 90-degree angle, so the pattern's off. We have to rip that thing up and redo it. But that's fine because the way that we flowed, we scheduled this early enough where it's not going to hurt our timeframes at all. But I mean, that's kind of how we look at it. Design is design. I think that we'll continue to put processes in place to make sure they're hitting check marks and we're getting that down faster. But people only care when you rip their house apart, and then how long is it going to take them to get back into it. That's what I found, at least.
Yeah, so we have a couple questions kind of relative to your answer, actually. How do you handle the process? Now, we know obviously you're taking on a designer, so this may kind of shape some of that, but asked, how do you handle the proposal process with designers? Because the customer obviously wants to know what the budget is, but he's saying now his designers keep talking about costs, but they only know a portion of the costs. And then he said chicken and the egg. So
Yeah. So what we used to do is, what we've done is basically on these proposals, I would build out these entire things and I would put like budget allowance, budget allowance, budget allowance. I'd use it everywhere. And it would be like $10 on tile, $5 on flooring, $1,500 in your tub. And I had to build these in because early on we didn't. And I would say, oh yeah, this probably cost me 10 grand. And then the client goes out and picks a $2,200 tub. And now we're in this standoff of who pays for what, because you said it was included, but it's not this one and that type of deal. So we don't do that anymore. The problem with designers that we have found is that designers don't care about price. They want to make something pretty. And so like for this one, this client had like a $10 allowance and he chose like a $60 square, and it wasn't even 60, it was like 110, but through like our discount stuff, we were able to get it down to $60 square foot tile. So one of the reasons why we're changing our process to, again, bringing that designer in house, but what I want to do is during our design process, I want to give 3 options. And it's going to be tough early because we're going to have to build these out. But after they're built out, it's just going to kind of be plug and play, basically, depending on what style they want. And like, this is what a $75,000 kitchen looks like. This is what a $110,000 kitchen looks like. This is what a $200,000 kitchen looks like. What do you want? And then each one of those will have elements like, okay, I want the countertops from the 110 kitchen, but I'm okay with the cabinets for the 75. But what we did ahead of time was we've baked in all of our costs so we know what everything's going to cost us, right? So that's what we're going to move to with the designer, is where the designer is going to design it to them, but he's going to be in these strict parameter boxes as far as like, this is what she can do. Do not go custom past this unless it's something the client has already agreed to, right? But yeah, I mean, that's a tough one, man. Designers don't care about price. They want to make something pretty, and it comes back on us like, oh, you said this project is going to be 150 and now it's 225. Like, yeah, chose the finishes you chose. I don't know what to tell you.
rich taste.
Yeah, exactly.
Love it. Okay, so in kind of, again, that same sort of vein, do you charge for your proposals and or your designs?
No, I don't. Design, yes. So I do not get into design with a client until they've signed a contract with me and give me a 40% deposit. Just won't do it. It's too much time and effort. And I've done it like once in the past and they loved it, but they're trying to like negotiate down price. I'm pretty sure they took that design and ran to something else with it. So I do not charge for proposals. What I do up front though is I'm good about qualifying, asking for budgets, telling them up front, like, hey, I'm not the cheapest. We're not the most expensive. These are my ranges usually, right? So qualifying, give proposal, they sign with us, and then we go. Under new model, it's going to be $5,000 for design, use me or not. But during that $5,000 design, they're going to have a time to meet Jesus. They're going to have a time to meet Jesse. They're going to have time to meet me. They're going to get sold on the process, sold on how we work. That will close 80% of those, 90% of those, right?
So in light of that, we actually have another question. Besides going for the budget first, how else are you qualifying your leads? What metrics are you using?
If somebody wants a fiberglass shower base, I'm not their client. If somebody wants us to repaint their kitchen cabinets, that's not my client. It's things like that, right? It's just knowing what you do and what you do not do. I can't make money off of those type of jobs. Those aren't bad jobs. There's a place for that, but that's probably going to be a single operator that's not running a business and that's not paying other guys, right? Or if they are, the subcontracting it out. So it's just figuring out exactly what you do, and anything outside that box when you're asking, like, okay, what are you thinking for cabinets? And one of the big things I say often too is like, hey, I've done $10,000 in cabinets in the kitchen, and I've done $80,000 in cabinets in the kitchen, right? It really depends on what you're looking for, like what is important to you. And they're like, oh, we're trying to keep our kitchen cabinets. Like, okay, that's fine. I totally get it. I'm just probably not the best fit for you, right? So it's asking those type of questions. But again, like I'm figuring out budget. I might not be asking them straight up as far as like what number do you have in mind, but I'm figuring out budget. So it's all through like how do you get to budget without asking that if you don't feel comfortable with that. I do. I don't have a problem with it. You can ask it in a way that doesn't hurt, but I get it. Some people are, don't love it. Okay. Fiberglass or or stone shower floor. That's a pretty easy one to figure out.
Yeah. No, that's good. All right, so we have some questions kind of about like how you're engaging with different people in the field. So, do you reach out to realtors, architects, or designers? I know we keep coming back to the design. You reaching out to other architects or realtors?
No, but there is a lot of value in that. And it's just because sometimes I think I'm lazy and sometimes I think I'm just way too swamped. I don't know, but there is value in that. There's a lot of value in that. Realtors probably not so much right now. What I've seen with realtors is the market's really rough and the realtor just wants to turn and burn houses. But designers and architects, absolutely. You just have to be really careful with designers because they usually just want your work and they don't want the other work the other way around, right? Architects probably a little bit better. It's going to be hard to get in with architects because if an architect's been around for 20 years, he has the 2 or 3 builders he wants to go to. But if you can cultivate that relationship, one of those relationships is probably worth $1 million a year. So it's just, but yeah, there's a lot of value in that. We just haven't yet. Not to say that we won't. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's helpful. So Justin was asking a question about how you are integrating all of your leads from the different platforms that you might receive them from into JobTread.
So we're lucky enough with the size that we're doing that, I might only get, I don't know, 8 leads a month, 10 leads a month on our current system because I've cut back from the junk leads type of stuff. So those are very easy to manage. If you were a smaller product higher operation company, like we have a guy that's doing a bathroom refinish for us right now. He probably does 2 or 3 of those a day, right? And it's just like, I would use a CRM. I would use HubSpot, and then I would use HubSpot into JobTread. JobTread is amazing for a lot of things. There are better CRM options out there, and then you take the best CRM option and then you go through JobTread. That's what I would say. Sorry, Casey, but that's what I would.
And that's the end of the time, man. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I mean, I'm just awesome. Like, no, JobTread for like proposal on, unbelievable. But CRM, I would use HubSpot.
Yeah. We have a CRM training if you want to go check that out. So,
man, I've done HubSpot. I love JobTread, man. I'll see you guys. I'm a realist.
Love it. Yeah. So Alan actually has a question about something that you emphasized a couple different times. What creative ideas could you give to brand our subs or industry partners while on the job site? A couple of them, but if you have some more ideas, that would be helpful.
So the easiest one and the one that everybody should be doing is branded t-shirt band. $4, $5, $6, super easy. Hats, anything, but it's just give these guys stuff so they can represent you appropriately. It's super easy to do. It doesn't cost that much money. And it's well worth it, man. Cause we've all been on sites where you just see this mishmash of individuals and you got to think from the client's point of view. They're like, is the stuff in my home safe? Like, is anything going to like walk off when I'm not there or paying attention or not micromanaging? Or if you have everybody in your gear with your name and logo on it, that question's out the door. They're like, nope, okay, Kane Remodeling's in on this. I'm safe. I'm protected, right? Because they've already built trust with us, or else they never would have signed a contract. So that's a big one. And not everybody hears to it. I can't get every sub to wear our gear and stuff like that, but I'm making sure that I'm giving them access to it and that they have it. And not just like a shirt, give them like 3 or 4. Especially the guys that are going to be there like days on days. And just pressure them a little bit on it, hey guys, this is important, especially on the bigger jobs, like this is important. You see where we're working, things like that. But I do find that very, very valuable. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll just add a little bit to that too. I feel like here at JobTread, we do a really great job of branding all of our stuff. So they'll give us t-shirts. One thing that you might consider that we actually do, we have kind of a running loop of bags of clothes that are leaked to people that we'll take to a local embroider, and they'll just put our logo on stuff. So people will go on Amazon and buy like a nice, I don't know, fleece, and then they'll pay for it themselves. So like if we bring them stuff, they will put the logo on it so that we can have branded gear and swag. And so that's been really great, because then people are able to wear the things that they love that they buy and then get it branded. And you just take them in bulk and you're like, I need you to put our logo on all of these things. And then you bring it back and it's like, all right, this belongs to Casey. This belongs to so-and-so, and so, there's a lot of creative ideas, but I would agree. I mean, I have my kids, since I started working here, all have the hats, and people are like, what is that? JT. And my son's name is Jude. They're like, did you get your initials? It's like, no, that's where my dad works. So
Yeah. It's just little things, right? It's things that we overlook because we're so busy on putting out fires or keeping the lights on. But this is the stuff, and I'm like, this is especially in this industry. Coming from tech, all of these companies were just like, all their processes were so tight, and the fact that you're working with JobTread and the fact that you're on this webinar, it means that you're probably in the top 25% of remodelers or builders or whatever already, but there's just such a gap between the companies that do it right and the companies that don't, especially in construction and in the trades, because it's a little bit further behind because everyone's just trying to move jobs. So if you do these little things and make practices of it, yeah, it's really easy to drive revenue. Being efficient, that's a little harder, but driving revenue, I mean, that's easy.
yeah. Well, you've said something that I feel like is really important, and that is to let, specifically, obviously I'm here, thinking about sort of the JobTread angle of all of this, but like utilizing the software. But I think it's really important and applicable for business management and like growth, is letting the business grow and learn, like be a constant learner, be someone who is able to let your process, you talked about it with your documents, letting the things that you do continue to develop and get better. I think just is setting you up for a lifetime of success if you are actively a learner and trying to modify your processes, from things that are good to maybe things that are better, or like, figuring out inefficiencies or different things, even like hiring your own designer. Like that really does kind of cut out part of that process, and it gives you a little bit more partnership and control. And I think things like that are really, really helpful. Dan, I did want to throw this out to you. I know Lewis actually had more of sort of a comment/question. He asked if you would be willing to like just talk with him and let him just kind of pick your brain one-on-one. And in light of that, is there a way that people can get in touch with you? Like, an email if anybody has any questions or might want to, reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So my email is dan@kaneremodeling.com. It's KANE remodeling.com. Go ahead, send me an email. Yeah, I'd love to. I make some time for that. Sure. But
It's just Dan. Is it just Dan? I don't have my email popped up right now. Just Dan at Kane Remodeling?
yes, it is.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to put it in the chat right now, and you let me know if that's wrong or right. I think that's right.
Uh, uh,
Webinar chat.
it's correct. Yep. So yeah, so that's it. Yeah, just shoot me an email. Yeah, would love to talk, and we'll be at Connect next year, JobTread Connect next year as well. Last year was just me. This year I'll have my two partners with me, so that will be nice. And yeah, the greatest thing with JobTread is that's, our goal is like, we want to get better on every job in every way that we can. And we're only going to be able to do that by sitting down and really thinking what we did right and what we did wrong. So from a proposal standpoint, from a documentation standpoint, from a schedule standpoint, a lot of this drives through the software itself, right? And so that's what I very much look forward to, is when I bring in these other guys, it's going to give me more time and more headspace to actually do more of this, right? That's like, everybody has their roles, and right now we're wearing a lot of hats, but I'm going to be most beneficial to my company when I only deal with sales and business processes, right? So in order to do that, we have to build out the other systems to make that work. But that's what we're getting to. And you think the same with yourself, is like, how am I most valuable to my company? Is it me ordering tile and ordering flooring? No, someone else can do that, right? Is it me project management? Probably not, right? So like, figure out what process it is for you that's going to make you most valuable to your company. Like for me, it's sales and business processes. That's what I need to focus on.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Well, Dan, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us for this Pro Spotlight. Man, we're really thankful for your insights, for your wisdom, for your you willingness to answer some questions and sort of follow up. And again, this is what makes this community really valuable, is because obviously we all come from different spaces. We do different things. Some of us do remodels, some of us do new home builds, some of us do just specific trades. But we can learn a lot from one another when we're willing to share. And so I put a link to the JobTread Connect conference in the chat. So if you go check that out, you'll get to see the conference that Dan first gave this presentation at, and an opportunity to meet other people. We have roundtables, which give you the opportunity to network and interface with different people that share similar trades or businesses. And that's a great opportunity for you to learn and grow, but also to make connections, because again, you just never know where a relationship is going to build that might be really beneficial in the future. So again, man, Dan, thanks so much for joining us, brother. I really appreciate it.
Perfect. Thanks for having me, Casey. I'm sure we'll be talking here soon.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I just want to remind you that we do these every 2 weeks on Tuesday. We're going to have one again here in 2 weeks. And make sure that you guys are kind of keeping a watch out, because again, these are great opportunities for you to learn from some people that, again, even Dan, who has a point A of a reference, having given this presentation, and then learn more, and now he's offering more information on top of what he already shared. So yeah, everybody in the chat, if you haven't had a chance to see Dan, is just really thankful for your time, your energy, your effort, and all your wisdom that you were able to share. So thank you guys so much for joining us for the Spotlight. We hope to see you guys again in 2 weeks. Make sure that you're checking out our training tab. We have a lot of training that will continue to help you learn different parts of the software, but also there's going to be some other really great resources on the website as well. You'll see some other webinars that you can learn from some other users as well. So make sure you're checking that out, and we will see you guys again in 2 weeks for the Pro Spotlight. Again, Dan, thanks so much. Appreciate you. We'll see you guys.